The city lights of New York City glittered below, but for David Miller, they just blurred into a painful reminder of everything he'd lost. He was a billionaire, head of a massive tech company, and yet, his sprawling penthouse felt emptier than ever. 3 months ago, his wife, Sarah, had died suddenly, leaving him with newborn twins, Leo and Luna, and a chasm in his heart. He'd hired a nanny, a young woman named Maria Rodriguez, who seemed kind enough. But David was a man consumed by grief and suspicion. His sister, Carol, had been whispering doubts in his ear, suggesting Maria was too young, too inexperienced, maybe even stealing. David, lost in a fog of sorrow and distrust, decided he needed to know the truth. He had hidden cameras installed throughout his home, intending to catch Maria in a mistake, to find a reason to fire her and silence Carol's nagging. He put off watching the footage, buried under a mountain of work, a way to escape the crushing silence of his home. But tonight, at 2 a.m., the quiet was unbearable. He clicked open the first video file, expecting to see a careless nanny, proof that he was right to be wary. Instead, what unfolded on his screen would shatter his assumptions and change his life forever. David watched the first clip, his brow furrowed in concentration. It was 8:43 a.m. on a Tuesday. Maria was on the soft playmat in the living room with Leo and Luna. But she wasn't just playing. Her movements were precise, almost like a dance. She gently lifted Leo's left arm, rotating it slowly, counting in a soft, rhythmic whisper. It wasn't English, but it sounded comforting. She did this for almost an hour, repeating the same careful stretches. When Leo fussed, she'd pause, kiss his tiny forehead, whisper something soothing, and then continue. This wasn't just babysitting, it was something much more. He clicked to the next clip, 11:15 a.m. the same day. Maria was in the kitchen, making bottles. But her face was wet, silent tears tracing paths down her cheeks. Her hands trembled as she measured the formula. She gripped the counter, her shoulders shaking, before taking a deep breath, wiping her face, and walking back to the living room, a bright smile now plastered on her face for the babies. David felt a strange ache in his chest. Another clip, 2:30 p.m. Maria was back on the floor with Leo, moving his legs in what looked like gentle exercises, hip rotations, ankle flexions. She pulled a folded paper from her pocket, glanced at it, and continued the movements. David paused the video, zooming in on the paper. The heading was partially obscured, but he could make out. Early Intervention Protocols for Infant. His blood ran cold. He fast-forwarded. 4:20 p.m. Maria was preparing dinner. Grilled chicken, roasted vegetables, carefully made. She plated it, stared at it for a moment, then wrapped it up and put it in the fridge. Instead, she ate a granola bar, standing at the counter. Later footage showed her phone screen, Amazon orders for therapy equipment, special pillows, sensory cards, all bought with her own money. Maria was spending her meager salary on his sons. David scrolled faster, the hours blurring into days. Every single day, the same routine, hours of quiet therapy after he left for work, tears when she thought no one was watching, hiding the equipment before he came home. Then he found the bath time clip. Maria was gently lifting Leo, her fingers carefully examining his head. She found something, a faint mark, and her whole body stiffened. Her hand flew to her mouth. She stared at it, then pulled out her phone, taking photos from multiple angles. When she heard David's car approaching, she quickly deleted the photos, composed herself, and was smiling when he walked in. David stopped the video. Leo had a mark on his head. Maria had seen it, photographed it, and hidden it. Dr. Evans, their pediatrician, had said everything was fine, but Maria knew something he didn't, and she was carrying this burden alone. He couldn't stop watching. He clicked through more clips, his coffee growing cold beside him, the night stretching into early morning. 9:30 p.m. on a Wednesday. Maria was supposed to be off at 8, but she was still there, on the floor between the cribs, Leo cradled in her arms, doing those careful exercises. Her voice was soft, exhausted. "Just 10 more minutes, sweet boy. Then you can rest." She wasn't getting paid for this. Next clip, 11:45 p.m., the same night. Both twins were fussy. Maria held them simultaneously, one in each arm, swaying gently, singing a low, rhythmic lullaby, tears streaming down her face. Then she whispered something that made David's breath catch. "I'm so sorry I have to leave you soon. But someone has to make sure you get help, even if it can't be me." Leave? Why would she be leaving? David scrolled back through the timeline and found a clip from 2 weeks ago. Maria was in her small bedroom, a tiny space off the kitchen he rarely thought about, used for overnight care. She was sitting on the floor, holding a letter. An official government seal was visible, even on the grainy footage. Her whole body shook as she read it. Then she folded it carefully, hid it in a drawer, and cried into her hands for 20 minutes. David's stomach dropped. He fast-forwarded, found another clip. Maria on her phone late at night, searching something. He zoomed in, barely making out the screen. How to report medical malpractice anonymously. His heart began to pound. Another clip, Maria during Leo's checkup, the one David had barely paid attention to, too busy on his phone, dealing with a work crisis. He watched it now with the sound turned up. Maria's voice, gentle but concerned. His left side seems stiff. He doesn't move his arm much. Both babies startle easily, but Leo's reflexes seem really exaggerated. His head tilts right, even during tummy time. I think it might be worth. Dr. Evans cut her off. I delivered these babies. I know their baseline. Premature nervous systems develop slower. What you're describing is textbook normal. But David saw it now, a flash across Evans's face, just for a second, something that looked like fear before the professional mask slammed back down. Maria had pressed gently. But Leo's asymmetry seems. I've been practicing medicine for 25 years, Evans said coldly. I think my medical degree carries more weight than a nanny's observations. David had been right there in the room, hadn't heard any of it, too distracted, too buried in his own crisis to notice his son's doctor dismissing concerns that, watching now, seeing Leo's stiff movements, the way his head tilted, were clearly real. He clicked to another clip. Maria researching on her phone. Article after article about infant cerebral palsy, birth trauma, forceps injuries, oxygen deprivation. She was teaching herself how to save his son, while he'd been installing cameras to catch her failing. David's hands were shaking now. He searched through more footage, looking for, he didn't even know what, answers, understanding, some explanation for why this woman would sacrifice everything for children who weren't hers. Then he found the clip that broke him completely. The timestamp read 1:18 a.m. 4 nights ago. Maria in her bedroom, the door closed. David almost skipped past it. What could happen in her private space that mattered? But something made him pause. She was on the floor, back against the bed, laptop open in front of her, typing. Her face was wet, but she wasn't making a sound, just tears running down while her fingers moved across the keyboard. David leaned closer to the screen, adjusted the angle, and could barely make out what she was writing. It was an email. To New York State Medical Board subject, urgent, potential medical malpractice involving infant patient. His blood went cold. She kept typing. I am writing to report concerns regarding Dr. Arthur Evans and his treatment of twin infants Leo and Luna Miller, born via emergency C-section on date. Patient Leo Miller shows clear signs of birth trauma, left side hypertonia, exaggerated Moro reflex, persistent torticollis. Physical examination reveals a faint but visible mark on his scalp consistent with forceps placement. When these symptoms were brought to Dr. Evans's attention at the 2-month checkup, he dismissed them as normal despite their progressive nature. David's hands gripped the edge of his desk. She continued typing. I believe Dr. Evans caused injury during delivery and is now covering up the damage by refusing proper evaluation and treatment. Without immediate intervention, this child will suffer permanent developmental delays. I am submitting this report anonymously because I am undocumented and fear deportation, but I cannot in good conscience remain silent while a child's future is being sacrificed to protect a doctor's reputation. She sat back, reading what she'd written. Her shoulders shook. Then she highlighted the entire email and deleted it. She opened a new draft, wrote the same thing again, word for word, deleted it again. She did this 5 times. Finally, she saved a draft and closed the laptop, pulled her knees to her chest, buried her face, and cried the way people cry when they're completely alone, raw, broken, the kind of crying that comes from carrying something too heavy for too long. David heard her whisper through the speakers. "I'm sorry, Miguel. I'm so sorry I couldn't save you, but I can save them. Even if it costs me everything, even if I lose everything again." She lifted her head, looked at the ceiling like she was talking to someone who wasn't there. "God, I know you see this. I know you know what I'm trying to do. Please, please let them get help even after I'm gone. Please don't let Leo suffer like Miguel did. I'm begging you." David stopped the video. His whole body was shaking. Maria had a brother who died, a brother with the same condition Leo had, and she'd been too late to save him. But she wasn't going to be too late this time, even if it meant destroying herself. David clicked to the next file, desperate now to understand. The timestamp was from yesterday morning, and what he saw made everything worse. Yesterday morning, 6:47 a.m. Maria's key in the door 30 minutes before she was supposed to arrive. David watched her slip into the quiet penthouse, moving carefully so she wouldn't wake anyone. She went straight to the nursery, picked up Leo first, so gently, like he was made of glass. Kissed his forehead, examined his left arm, checked the range of motion, her face tight with concern. Then Luna, same careful attention, checking her neck rotation, her muscle tone. She carried both boys to the living room, laid out a soft mat, and started the therapy routine David now recognized. But this time, he watched her face instead of just her hands. She looked exhausted. Dark circles under her eyes, thinner than when she'd started 2 months ago. Moving like every muscle hurt. But she didn't stop, didn't cut corners, gave Leo the full hour of exercises, even though her hands were shaking by the end. At 8:15, she heard David's bedroom door open. She immediately hid all the therapy equipment, scooped up both boys, and was casually playing peekaboo when he walked past the living room on his way to the kitchen. "Good morning, Mr. Miller," she'd said, smiling. He barely looked at her. "Morning." Grabbed his coffee, took a work call, left for the office 20 minutes later without asking about the twins. Watching it now, David wanted to reach through the screen and shake himself. He clicked forward. Lunchtime. Maria feeding Leo with a special bottle he'd never noticed before, a different nipple angled specifically to help with his oral motor control. It took 45 minutes to get 3 ounces into him. She never rushed, never showed frustration, just patient, constant, loving. Another clip, 3 p.m. Maria on her phone, texting someone. David zoomed in on the screen's reflection in the window behind her. "Mama, I can't send money this month. I'm sorry. I had to buy equipment for the baby I'm caring for. He needs it more than we do right now. I'll send extra. Next month, I promise." The response came in Spanish. But even without understanding the words, David could read the tone. Her mother was upset. Maria typed back, "I know, Mama. I know you're counting on me. But this little boy, if I don't help him, no one will. God will provide for us. Please trust me." She set the phone down, put her head in her hands. David felt sick. She was supporting her family back home, sending money every month, and she'd stopped so she could buy therapy equipment for his son. He scrolled faster through the timeline, looking for, he didn't know what, something that would make sense of this. Something that would explain why someone would give up everything for strangers. Then he found the footage from 3 days ago. Maria in the kitchen after putting the twins down for the night, pulling something from her bag. A small photo in a frame, worn at the edges like it had been held 1,000 times. A little boy, maybe 7 or 8 years old, in a wheelchair, smiling despite the way his body was twisted, his left hand curled tight against his chest. Maria traced the photo with her finger, tears falling onto the glass. "I couldn't save you, Miguel," she whispered. "But I won't let it happen again. I won't." David's vision blurred. She'd watched her brother die from the same condition Leo had. And now she was watching history try to repeat itself. But this time she had the knowledge, the skills, the chance to change the ending, even if it destroyed her in the process. David clicked to the most recent footage, this morning, just hours ago, and what he saw made him realize he was already too late. This morning, 5:52 a.m. Maria entering the penthouse even earlier than usual. She looked like she hadn't slept. Went straight to the nursery. But this time, she didn't pick up the twins right away. She just stood there between their cribs, staring down at Leo and Luna, sleeping peacefully, her hand covering her mouth. Then she pulled an envelope from her jacket pocket, the same government letter David had seen her crying over weeks ago. She unfolded it, read it again, like maybe the words had changed. They hadn't. Her lips moved, barely audible, through the camera's microphone. 23 days left. She refolded the letter, put it away, and wiped her eyes. Picked up Leo, held him against her chest, and started singing that same lullaby, the one David now knew she'd sung to her dying brother. Her voice cracked halfway through, but she kept going. "Your daddy's going to find out soon, sweet boy," she whispered into Leo's hair. "And when he does, he's going to get you the help you need. Real doctors, real therapy, everything I can't give you." She kissed his head. "I won't be here to see you get better. But that's okay. That's okay because you will get better. You have to." David's throat closed. She thought he was going to find out after she was gone. Thought she'd have to leave without ever telling him the truth, trusting that somehow her anonymous report would be enough. She had no idea he was watching this right now. The footage continued. Maria doing the morning therapy session, but slower today, more careful, like she was memorizing every moment, counting each stretch in whispered numbers, documenting Leo's responses in her journal with extra detail. At 7:30, she pulled out her phone and opened that draft email again, the report to the medical board, read through it one more time, her finger hovering over the send button. She didn't press it, not yet. Still trying to buy more time. A few more days of therapy, a few more chances to help Leo before she had to blow everything up. David checked the timestamp on the current footage. This was from 6 hours ago, which meant Maria was in the penthouse right now, down the hall. Probably already awake, probably already starting her morning routine with the twins. She had no idea he had spent the entire night watching 3 weeks of her secret life. No idea he knew about Miguel, about the deportation notice, about the equipment she'd bought with grocery money, about the report she was planning to send before she disappeared. No idea that everything she'd been hiding was about to come crashing down. David closed the laptop, sat in the dark office, his heart pounding, mind racing through everything he'd just seen. He could hear movement down the hall now. Maria's soft footsteps, the nursery door opening quietly, her voice gentle and warm, greeting the twins. He stood up, walked down the hallway on shaking legs, found her exactly where the cameras had shown her every morning, on the floor with Leo, doing those careful exercises, singing softly. She looked up when she heard him in the doorway, saw his face, and froze. "How long have you known?" David's voice came out rougher than he meant it to. He hadn't slept, hadn't processed anything except 3 weeks of footage showing him a truth he'd been too blind to see. Maria's hands froze mid-stretch on Leo's left arm, her face drained of color. "Mr. Miller, She carefully set Leo down on the mat, stood up slowly. "I don't understand what you..." "About Leo's injury." His voice cracked. "About Dr. Evans. How long have you known?" The air left her lungs. She took a step back, hit the wall behind her. Her eyes darted to the twins, then back to David, calculating escape routes that didn't exist. "I can explain." "How long?" Maria's lips trembled. 6 weeks. Since the 2-month checkup when I saw his face. The way he looked when I mentioned the symptoms. David's jaw clenched. 6 weeks you've been doing this. The therapy, the equipment, using your own money. I didn't know what else to do. Her voice broke. You weren't listening. The doctor wasn't listening. Leo needed help. And nobody was. Why didn't you tell me? The question hung between them like a blade. Maria's eyes filled with tears. Because I'm illegal, Mr. Miller. The words came out barely above a whisper, but they hit David like a physical blow. My visa expired 7 months ago. I couldn't afford to fix it. And the second I accuse a respected doctor of malpractice, the second I make myself visible to any official system, I get investigated. They check my status. I get deported. Her voice was shaking now. I knew you wouldn't believe me over him. I knew I had no credibility, no standing, no proof except what I learned taking care of my brother who died from the same thing. David stared at her. Your brother, Miguel? Fresh tears spilled over. He had cerebral palsy from a birth injury. We couldn't afford treatment in the Philippines. I watched him suffer for 8 years before he died. I was 14. She wiped her face with shaking hands. I recognized Leo's symptoms immediately: the stiffness, the reflexes, the mark on his head from forceps trauma. I've seen this before, Mr. Miller. I know what happens when it goes untreated. So you just treated him yourself in secret? What choice did I have? Her voice rose, desperate now. Stay silent and watch another child suffer, or speak up and get deported before I could help him at all? David's mind was reeling. The deportation notice. I saw it on the footage. You have 23 days. Maria's voice dropped to nothing. I was going to stay until the end, do as much therapy as possible, then send an anonymous report to the medical board before I left. At least then you'd know the truth. At least Leo would get real help even if I wasn't here to see it. You were going to sacrifice everything. It wasn't a question. He's a baby, Mr. Miller. Tears streaming freely now. An innocent baby who didn't ask for any of this, whose mother died giving him life, who deserves every chance to be okay. Her voice broke completely. I already failed to save one child. I couldn't fail again. Even if it cost me everything, even if. She stopped mid-sentence, seeing something change in David's face. What did you see? She whispered. On the cameras. What did you see? David's hands were shaking. Everything, he said quietly. I saw everything. Maria's knees nearly gave out. And in that moment, she understood. He knew about Miguel, about the therapy, about the money she'd spent, about the emails she'd drafted and deleted 100 times, about every single thing she'd been hiding. She waited for him to tell her to leave, to call immigration, to fire her and protect himself from the liability. Instead, David pulled out his phone, started dialing. Maria's heart stopped. This was it. This was how it ended. But the name he spoke into the phone wasn't immigration. It was something she never expected. Get me Robertson. I don't care what time it is now. Maria stood frozen against the wall, watching David pace the nursery floor, phone pressed to his ear. Robert, it's David Miller. I need an emergency immigration case handled today. Yes, today. I'm sponsoring a work visa. He glanced at Maria. Full name? She could barely speak. Isabel Maria Rodriguez. Isabel Maria Rodriguez. Filipino national. Expired student visa. Currently undocumented. I need her legal status fixed immediately. Whatever it costs. He paused, listening. I don't care if it's a holiday. Make it happen. Bill me directly. He hung up, dialed again before Maria could process what just happened. Dr. Sophia Rahman, this is David Miller. My twin sons need an immediate evaluation for suspected birth trauma and cerebral palsy today if possible. Pause. Yes, I know it's Saturday. I'll pay whatever premium you need. Both boys, full neurological workup. Another call. Dr. Evans's office. This is David Miller. You can inform Dr. Evans he's fired effective immediately. Forward all medical records for Leo and Luna Miller to Dr. Sophia Rahman by end of business today, and tell him I'll be filing a formal complaint with the medical board on Monday morning. He ended the call, made one more. Carol, listen carefully. The custody suit is over. Withdraw the petition by Monday or I'll countersue for harassment and expose the financial motive behind your claim. Don't test me. He hung up. Finally, looked at Maria. She was crying so hard she could barely stand. Mr. Miller, I can't. You saved my sons. His voice was raw. While I was planning to fire you, while I was looking for reasons to blame you for everything falling apart, you were saving them. I just did what anyone. No. David cut her off. Not anyone. You spent your own money, your food money. You worked hours you weren't paid for. You risked everything. Your future. Your dream of nursing school. Your chance to stay in this country for children who aren't yours. His voice cracked. You did what I should have been doing, what their father should have seen. Maria shook her head. You were grieving. You lost your wife. You were trying to survive. I was drowning. David's eyes were red. And I almost took them down with me. If you hadn't been here. He couldn't finish the sentence. Silence filled the nursery except for the twins' soft breathing. The lawyer I just called? David said quietly. Best immigration attorney in New York. You'll have your visa status fixed within a week. Full work authorization, legal residency. Maria's legs gave out. She slid down the wall to the floor. I'm tripling your salary, David continued. Full benefits, and I'm paying for nursing school full-time, not night classes. You'll work reduced hours here, but keep full pay so you can focus on your degree. Mr. Miller, that's too much? It's not enough. His voice broke completely. It'll never be enough for what you've done. Maria covered her face with her hands, sobbing. But there's one more thing I need from you, David said. She looked up, terrified. He got down on the floor beside her, right there on the nursery carpet where she'd spent hundreds of hours doing therapy in secret. Teach me, he whispered. Show me how to help them. Show me what you've been doing. I want to learn. I need to learn. Maria stared at him through her tears. Please, David said. Let me be their father, the one they deserve, the one Sarah believed I could be. For the first time in 6 weeks, Maria wasn't carrying the weight alone. And for the first time since Sarah died, David wasn't running from the truth. But there was still one thing neither of them knew. Something that would change everything again. Dr. Sophia Rahman arrived at the penthouse 3 hours later. She was in her 50s, a calm presence, with kind eyes. She spent 20 minutes just watching Leo and Luna before she touched them. Then another hour doing the gentlest, most thorough examination David had ever witnessed. Maria stood in the corner, arms wrapped around herself, terrified. Finally, Dr. Rahman sat back, looked at David with an expression that was equal parts professional concern and quiet anger. Your son, Leo, has mild hypertonic cerebral palsy, almost certainly from birth trauma. Her voice was measured but firm. The torticollis, the left side stiffness, the exaggerated reflexes, these are classic presentations. Luna shows some low muscle tone that needs monitoring, but Leo's condition required intervention months ago. David's stomach dropped. Months ago, at the 2-month checkup when concerns were first raised. Dr. Rahman glanced at Maria. Someone tried to get him help. Someone recognized the symptoms early when treatment is most effective. Dr. Evans said everything was normal. Dr. Evans was wrong, or lying. Dr. Rahman pulled out a small flashlight, showed David something on Leo's scalp. This mark here, forceps placement, and the bruising pattern suggests excessive force during delivery. This should have been documented immediately post-birth. Should have triggered follow-up care. The room tilted. Someone injured my son during the C-section, David said slowly, and then covered it up. That would be my assessment. Yes. Dr. Rahman's jaw was tight. I'll be filing my own report with the medical board. This is actionable malpractice. She turned to Maria, her expression softening completely. You've been doing therapy with him, haven't you? Maria nodded, not trusting her voice. May I see your documentation? Maria pulled out her journal with shaking hands. Pages and pages of detailed notes, exercises, timing, Leo's responses, tiny improvements tracked with the precision of someone who'd done this before. Dr. Rahman read through it, her eyebrows rising higher with each page. "This is exceptional work," she said quietly. "Professional grade intervention. Where did you train?" "I didn't." Maria's voice was barely audible. "I cared for my brother. He had CP. I learned everything trying to help him." Dr. Rahman looked at her for a long moment. "You saved this child from permanent developmental delays. If these symptoms had gone untreated another 2 months, we'd be looking at irreversible damage. You gave him his future back." Maria's knees buckled. David caught her, held her steady. "I want you on Leo's care team," Dr. Rahman said. "Official capacity. I'll supervise, but you're clearly the expert on his specific case. You'll need to be certified, of course, but—" "She's enrolling in nursing school," David said. "Full-time. I'm covering tuition." Dr. Rahman smiled. "Good. The medical field needs people who care like this." She stood, packed her equipment. "I'll send over a formal treatment plan by Monday. Leo will need ongoing therapy, but the prognosis is excellent thanks to early intervention." She paused at the door. "Mr. Miller, the person who did this to your son, who injured him and then covered it up." Her voice went cold. "Make sure he faces consequences. Children like Leo deserve justice." After Dr. Rahman left, David and Maria sat on the nursery floor, Leo between them. Luna sleeping peacefully in her crib. "Show me," David said softly. "Show me the first exercise." Maria's hands were still shaking, but she picked up Leo gently, demonstrated the careful stretch of his left arm, the precise angle, the counting rhythm. "Like this, 10 reps 3 times a day. You have to be patient. It takes time." David watched, memorized every movement. "Can I try?" She handed Leo to him, guided his hands to the right position. "Gentle, just like that. Count with me." They counted together, 1 through 10. David's voice breaking halfway through because he was finally doing something that mattered for his son. "Good," Maria whispered. "That's perfect." They worked together for an hour, Maria teaching, David learning. Both of them focused entirely on this tiny human who needed them both. When Leo finally fell asleep, exhausted from the therapy, David looked at Maria. "Thank you," he said, "for not giving up on them. For not giving up, even when I gave you every reason to." Maria wiped her eyes. "They're worth it. Every sacrifice, every risk, they're worth everything." "I know," David said. "I'm just sorry it took me so long to see it." 3 weeks later, something happened that changed everything one final time. Something that proved God's timing is always perfect, even when we can't see it. 3 months later, David left work at 5 p.m. sharp. It was a Tuesday. His board members had stopped questioning it. The company ran fine without him micromanaging every decision. Turned out the world didn't end when he chose his sons over conference calls. He walked into the penthouse and heard laughter coming from the living room. Maria was on the floor with both boys, now 7 months old. She looked different, less exhausted, more herself. The weight of secrets no longer pulling her down. Her visa had come through 2 weeks after that morning in the nursery. She was enrolled at New York University School of Nursing, attending classes 3 days a week while still working reduced hours with the twins. "How'd they do today?" David asked, setting down his briefcase, something he used to bring home and ignore. Now he actually left work at work. "Aaron rolled from back to tummy, both sides." Maria's smile was radiant. 3 times. David's throat tightened. 3 months ago, Leo couldn't roll at all. His left side too stiff, his muscles too tight. Now he was moving like any other baby. "Dr. Rahman came by for the weekly check," Maria continued. "She said Leo's progress is exceeding every projection. The torticollis is almost completely resolved." David got down on the floor beside them. Luna immediately crawled into his lap, something that still made David's chest ache with gratitude. His sons knew him now, trusted him, wanted him. He picked up Leo, did the stretching exercises that had become as natural as breathing, counted in rhythm with Maria, their voices overlapping like a song they'd practiced 1,000 times. The medical board had suspended Dr. Evans's license pending investigation. Criminal charges were likely. David had made sure of that, not out of vengeance, but because other children deserved protection. Carol had withdrawn the custody suit without a fight once she realized David had documentation of her financial motives. She hadn't contacted him since. And every night before bed, David sat in the nursery and talked to Sarah's picture on the wall. Told her about the boys' day, about Maria's nursing school classes, about the small victories that felt like miracles. "You'd be so proud of them," he'd whisper. "And you were right about something. God does provide, even when we can't see it. Even when we're too broken to recognize help standing right in front of us." Now, watching Leo laugh as Maria tickled his feet, David felt something he hadn't felt since Sarah died: hope. "Mr. Miller, look!" Maria's voice pulled him back. She was holding a toy just out of Leo's reach. Leo was staring at it, concentrating. Then slowly, deliberately, he reached out with both hands, left and right, working together. The toy wasn't the point. The reaching was. Both hands. Equal strength, perfect coordination. Maria's eyes filled with tears. He did it. He actually did it. David couldn't speak, could barely breathe. Leo grabbed the toy with both hands and brought it to his mouth, completely unaware that he'd just proven every doctor wrong, validated every sacrifice Maria had made, justified every sleepless night and terrified prayer. "Miguel would be so proud of you," Maria whispered, one hand on Leo's head. So proud. David understood then what he'd been too blind to see before. God hadn't taken Sarah away as punishment. He'd sent Maria, Grace, a young woman who'd lost her brother, carrying that grief across an ocean, working jobs that barely paid rent, fighting to stay in a country that didn't want her. Also, she'd be exactly where she needed to be the moment David's sons needed her most. "Thank you," David said, his voice breaking. "For everything. For seeing them when I couldn't. For staying when you had every reason to run. For loving them like they're mine," Maria finished softly. "Because they are. Maybe not by blood, but by choice, by love, by every hour I spent believing they deserved a future." David pulled both boys close, Maria's hand resting on his shoulder. They sat there on the floor, this family that grief and grace had built together, and watched Leo play with both hands. Equal, strong, whole. Outside, the sun was setting over New York City. Inside, 3 people who'd all lost someone they loved had found something they didn't know they needed. Each other. And a second chance to get it right. Sometimes the people who save us aren't the ones we expect. Sometimes God sends help in forms we almost miss. Quiet, unnoticed, sacrificing everything while we're too broken to see. This story is for every caregiver working in silence. Every immigrant fighting to stay. Every person choosing love over self-preservation. You're seen. You matter. And your sacrifice changes lives in ways you'll never fully imagine.